Coming to you live very, very shortly. Yes, and we're live.
Going live.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Club Star Wars live streaming. We'll just give it a few minutes to for everyone to catch the link and catch up. Has it been? What about before we introduce Frazer? What's been the deal? What's been the deal with the news this week?
The Star Wars news.
Has there been much?
Yeah. Let's have a look. See. Star Wars news.
Nothing earth-shattering.
Not that I know of. No. Well, it's this week where Force Friday is happening.
Oh yes, Force Friday.
So all the toys dropping. Apparently, 60 to 70% of the toys for the new movie are being held back until after the movie because of spoilers. So,
right, okay.
Yeah, if they released them, you'd know.
You know exactly who's in it.
Yeah, and what's going to happen, maybe. And,
like dead Luke and.
Yeah. Badass Luke with his green lightsaber doing some
reheated Emperor, things like that.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, I think it's time to introduce our guest, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome Mr.
Woo! Yeah, boomaloo. Good evening.
And just to explain, there's a little picture of Frazer there. It's actually a hot tie, but Frazer lives in the Highlands, don't you?
Right up top, Scotland.
Right up top in the northeast of Scotland.
And so they've only just kind of discovered the internet, haven't they, up there?
It's not that bad. It's not. I think it's just our house. Actually, I don't think we're that wild up here.
Yeah, but we weren't overly blessed with enough bandwidth to have your delightful face on video. So we're going to
this is more appealing, I think. Actually,
I think so. Did you say anything to them about the to Hot Toys about the figure?
No, I'm going to. I'm absolutely going to. I want one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's definitely based on yours, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's even holding its restraining device in its left hand, which means
there you go.
Oh, right.
So you're a lefty, or did you just grab the restraining device?
Well, fortunately, I am a lefty. Yeah.
Yes.
But it was given to me specifically in the left hand. I think there are actually other scenes in which the Jawas are seen holding the restraining gun in the left hand as well. So I think it's just kind of fortuitous. But I always say, hey, it's me. It's left-handed. It's me.
Excellent. So, well, let's go all the way back first. I mean, to start off with, obviously, your dad was in the movies for decades, really, wasn't he? Before,
yeah. I started in 1952. He kind of hit the circuit. Yeah, first film was Ivanhoe, the Richard Thorpe Ivanhoe, made up at MGM Elstree years ago. Yeah, and basically, sorry.
No, go on. I was just going to say, what had he started as actor there, or was he involved in the?
Well, he was an actor. Yeah, he wanted to be an actor from when he was a little kid. He ended up being conscripted at the army because obviously there was conscription at that time, and he was already an amateur performer. When he joined the army, he then learned to fence and thought, hey, I'm pretty good at this. I'm doing all right at it. And then he realized that he wasn't the best actor in the world, perhaps, but he still managed to get a scholarship to go to RADA. And when he was at RADA, he saw that there was a little niche there for people who could perhaps do stage fighting and mix it with their performance. So he started doing that, and he was seen at the year-end event in whatever it was, 1950, 1951. doing that, and this budding entrepreneur said, hey, why don't you do a tour around the cinemas that are showing the old swashbuckler and romance Lorna Doone? So he went on stage before every performance of the film to do a little sword fighting routine.
Wow.
And there he was seen
Awesome.
by other producers and whatever, and he started doing it full time. And you know, as I say, went on and did Ivanhoe, and that was under the tutelage of Yakima Canutt, the great Yakima Canutt, who did the Ben-Hur chariot race.
Right. Wow.
So it was quite a break, really. And from there through the 50s, you know, he just ended up doing film after film after film, you know, sometimes acting, but most of the time is fight arranging. So you're talking Knights of the Round Table, The Dark Avenger, The Dam Busters. He's on screen in The Dam Busters. You see him in one of the planes just before he gets blown out of the sky. So no stunt, but it's quite a nice little thing. But yeah, so he was actually trained throughout that period by Errol Flynn and Douglas Fairbanks Jr.
Wow.
So, you know, the very best.
Jesus.
Classic
The
stuff.
very, very best.
Yeah. And then when television launched in the late 50s, he ended up doing the fights for the BBC and ITV. He was the first person to do that. And basically, he was flitting around between BBC, ITV every other day, then fitting in a film, then doing stuff on stage, then doing things for like the Royal Opera House. Even the Royal Opera House, he was doing that for 40 years. He'd go back every, 6 months or so and put together something for them for their latest performance. So yeah, so it all kind of went from there. It just snowballed,
So what was your earliest memory of Dad Peter being involved in film or doing something, going off to work on a film? What was your...
Well, it was kind of everything, but the very first for me, I mean, I've got 5 brothers, and we're all quite widely spaced in years. I'm brother number 4, so I was born in 68. So my real first memory is when Dad came back from location shooting for the BBC's version of Last of the Mohicans with, is it Peter Maddock or Philip Maddock? Philip Maddock, isn't it? Who's the one who's in Philip Maddock, who does Don't Tell Him Pike and all of that in Dad's Army. Yeah. And basically they came in, it's probably not very good to hear this now, but they were all kind of, shall we say blacked up? Are we allowed to say blacked up? But they were blacked up. So they came rampaging around our house in smoke poges, dressed up as Indians, and they basically scalped all us brothers out on the driveway. And you kind of realize that, I mean, there's me like 3 years old thinking, okay, this isn't normal. But from there, it was just kind of everything. It was kind of like it was because Dad was so busy. I mean, I haven't even really begun to scratch the surface of what he did. I mean, 1,200 credits he accrued over his lifetime.
Wow.
160 feature films, 260 series, and all those episodes for various shows and stuff. I mean, it is a huge amount of things. So, you're growing up, and like we'd go on holiday when I was about 4 years old, and we'd go and see Frazer Hines because of his connection to Frazer through Doctor Who. At the time, because Dad was doing loads of Doctor Who. And then my mother had a little period where she was in hospital when she was going to give birth to my twin youngest brothers. And so Dad took the rest of us down south, and we hung around the Natural History Museum whilst he was shooting One of Our Dinosaurs is Missing.
One of my favourites as a kid.
Stayed in a caravan on the back lot at Pinewood Studios for a few days, and things like, weird stuff, just weird stuff. It was kind of like your life, you grew up with it.
Yeah.
So what was your first, who was the first, what would be the first experience of sort of almost being starstruck on one of those film sets or something, just like as a kid running around the corner?
You're saying that, but we weren't.
Or do you not have that concept? Yeah.
We didn't have that concept. I was very young. So if you think from my point of view, throughout even into Star Wars, I wasn't able to get starstruck. Firstly, because Star Wars didn't really exist when we filmed Star Wars.
No, yeah.
There was no Star Wars, so there was nothing to be starstruck about. Of course, by the time Empire came along, so we were talking 1979, I was like 11. Yeah, okay, I was starstruck because of everything that had gone on. But before that, no, it was just whatever, And also, Dad was very grounded. He treated it just as a job. So we never actually got Star Trek. I keep on saying Star Trek, don't I? Sorry, Starstruck.
Starstruck.
Because
Yeah,
that whole thing of celebrity didn't exist then, really,
No.
when we were kids. You know, there was no internet or anything. And as I say, from my father's point of view, it was just a job, you know? And he was working with all these different people every other day, and it was just your life. You know, you never thought of it as a celebrity thing and as a wow star thing. Of course, now I look back and go, holy cow, you know, the things we got to see.
Yeah.
But I never thought of it at the time.
So what was the first mention of Star Wars then? Before, like, how did it come about that you and your brother?
I have this story because, you know, I talk about my father now when I go to conventions and stuff, and I do
Yeah.
this talk with all these illustrations. But I always say that Boo Radley got my father the job on Star Wars, and that's because it was Bobby Duvall who played Boo Radley back in the beginning of the '60s in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah,
famous role. Yeah, famous breakthrough role. And basically, Dad was in Switzerland, I think it was. No, Austria. He was in Austria. Sorry, filming the 7% Solution, the Sherlock Holmes film with Robert Duvall and William Nicholson. And he was sending us, it was the Christmas of 1975, and he was really excited about working with the White Horses of Lippestrasse, or whatever they're called in Austria. It was the first time an outside stunt ranger had ever got to work with the horses. So he was sending all these postcards back and everything. And he went to the cast and crew kind of party at the Wrap. And he's hanging out with Bobby Duvall. Bobby Duvall doesn't drink, but Dad doesn't drink. And Bobby Duvall's they're having a little quiet moment together whilst everyone's off doing what they do. And he goes, well, what are you doing next? And Dad goes, well, I have no idea. There's this little thing called Star Wars happening at Elstree. I don't know what that is. And Bobby Duvall goes, oh, hang on, George is a friend of mine. So it was Bobby Duvall, so Boo Radley, who got Dad in touch with Elstree and got him in the door to go and see George Lucas.
It's not
he
what
went
you know, it's who you know.
And saw all of the Ralph McQuarrie drawings and everything around the office. That went, holy cow, what is this? You know, what is this amazing thing? It's like Buck Rogers on acid or something. Didn't understand it at all. And the story goes that he gave the script to me to read, and I was 7, and I've never known a time when I couldn't read. It was something I've always done. You know, it was like I just don't recall the time when I couldn't read. I was a very early reader.
Yeah.
And I did used to read bits and pieces of scripts and stuff that were around the house, even at that age. And so, of course, he gives me the script, and I think it's bloody amazing because I'm 7-year-old, and I'm going to think it's bloody amazing because it doesn't. It could be anything, but I thought it was bloody amazing. And his story that he gave to people after that was, oh, well, I gave it to my son to read. Frazer really loved it, and so that convinced me it was worthwhile doing. But to be honest with you, Dad would do anything. it was a job. He was freelance, you know what I mean? So but plus he was used to working in that kind of environment as well, because he done, if you think of all the Hammer films and things he did during the 60s and the cheapy horror films and stuff, he was used to working on a budget and these weird films coming out of left field. He did films like The Plague of the Zombies and The Reptiles, so he was, you know, he's used to a bit of madness and a bit of cheap madness, and that's what kind of what Star Wars was, really. Was
everyone thought it was a kind of low budget thing, didn't it? That's the feeling you get from set.
Rubber suits and whatnot.
Lots of rubber heads.
I mean, you hear these stories, don't you? People saying at the moment that people are saying all the time, oh, well, the crew just thought it was a big joke.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure Dad thought it was a big joke so much, but you know, you do hear that from others.
Well, he must, of course, Robert Duvall then will have known George Lucas from THX 1138.
Yeah. Did you have to Google that?
No, I just got. We're still desperate to find out how the hell you turn off notifications on bloody Windows 10, because it keeps interrupting things all the time.
Okay.
But anyway, So then you've read the script, and then was it?
So that was it. And the thing was, of course, back then it was just a sticker. Star Wars was just a sticker of the Star Wars with that weird guy with his chest out with a blue lightsaber against a triangle. That was all it was.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So all that, when people say, "Oh, Star Wars," and what was it like back then? You go, "Well, it wasn't. It was just the script."
Yeah.
And it was the Journal of the Wills, the Adventure of Luke Starkiller, blah blah blah, episode 8, blah blah blah. This huge long thing. And when you actually read that script again, as I have done recently, it was a 4th draft script he had. There was no Millennium Falcon.
Really?
Yeah, it was just this pirate spaceship.
Oh, right.
Right.
You
Yeah.
haven't thought of the name at that stage.
Was it had moved from Luke's Starkiller though at that point, had it?
Yeah. Well, it was Luke Starkiller on the front of the script we've got. So it's
Right. Wow. So all you saw then as a kid was just that picture of Luke.
That's all I had to go on until we actually filmed. That was all I had to go on, because Dad started in March of that year. I think it was March 26th. You're starting for 10 Diamond. March 26th, I think it was. And he went over to Tunisia, and then he came back, and and then there was a bit of huddled whispering with my mother in the kitchen one night, I remember. And the next day it's, "Oh, do you want to be in this little stupid film we're doing?"
Brilliant. So he'd been over to Tunisia and done the Sand People bit.
Yeah. Well, he was the only stuntman out there, so yeah, basically, yeah, all of that.
Yeah, so he'd done all that stuff, and then you were into the studio then.
Yeah, and we were kind of later pickups because we're June the 8th we shot ours, so we're late in the filming. We were kind of a later edition. Over in Tunisia, the Kurtz sisters, Melissa and Tiffany, had kind of played the Jawas alongside Jackie Purvis out there. And I think it was kind of a joke that replacing the Kurtz sisters were the Diamond brothers back at Elstree,
Brilliant. So what do you remember? Do you remember any specifics about the first day? Like, did you?
Yeah, well, I was only there
Did you meet Gary or George?
We only shot for a day. This is the big myth. People think you were on the film for ages. We only shot for a day. I went to Elstree lots and lots of times, but we only actually filmed for one day. In fact, we went the day before on June the 7th on a Monday, but they didn't need us. They were overrunning with other shoots with the Gonk droid and stuff. And so they brought us back in the next day, and you're like, at that stage, you'd already been hanging around all day the day before. You're 7 years old, and you're going, "This isn't fun," And then they shoved you, in a sack and pushed you out under some hot lights. It's funny because at the time we're running around that stage, and I couldn't see anything. The lights were hot on your head. The light bulbs are strapped to your head, so it was kind of like Star Wars was like, what's this? And now you look at it and you go, blimey, there were 8 droids in my scene, but I didn't see them. I didn't see anything. I had little eye holes. I could only see a few feet.
Yeah.
Well,
you only saw R2D2.
Pardon?
You only could see R2D2.
Yeah, basically R2 and 3PO. Yeah. And bear in mind as well that when you're a kid at that age, before Star Wars was Star Wars, your only kind of knowledge of what robots and droids are about would be something, humanoid. So the fact that there were these round bulbous things that you later hear, "Oh, that was a droid," you guys like, "What? I just thought it was a bit of rubbish."
So you'll have spoken to Kenny and Anthony Daniels then on that one day shooting then.
Well, I've met them before, but no, Kenny's not in our scene actually. It was just an empty droid that was kind of rattled on set.
Right. Yeah.
But yes, absolutely. Anthony Daniels was there. Obviously, there's that photo that follows me everywhere that's still lurking around me, today, of the black and white shot of us unmasked with Anthony Daniels.
Oh, yeah.
We had Jackie Purvis was there inside the Gonk droid on our day. He'd swapped over from the previous day. Apparently, he'd been playing in one of the pickup shots the day before. He'd been in his usual Chief Jawa role. And Rusty Goff was inside the Gonk.
Yeah.
And then for our day, they swapped over. So we had Rusty as our Chief Jawa on the day.
Right. Well, that's cool.
And then there were a couple of women there as well, who, again, I didn't even know there were a couple of women there, but there were a couple of women there who were inside the various protocol droids that were scattered around inside the prison area.
Yeah. So Was it second unit then, or was George shooting it? Or
That is something I really don't know.
right, okay,
I don't recall George being there, so I would assume it was second unit.
yeah.
Right.
It must
But
have
again,
been.
I met him on another. I met all these people, but not necessarily on that day, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So you'd been around like what? You were there the day before, and then how much
Oh
did
no,
you?
no, I've been there long. But as soon as I got back to Elstree, one of the first things when Dad got back to Elstree from the Tunisia shoot, my very first proper Star Wars experience was being led onto the sound stages at Elstree and walking across the back lot and all of that, and being shown around.
Yeah.
And two stormtroopers emerged from one of the sound stages and came over to us. Now, at the time, it was just guys in funny white plastic armor because, again, we didn't know what a stormtrooper was.
No.
And one of them picked me up and held me in his arms. And my dad's going, "Oh, this is Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill." And they were the first people I
Wow.
met. And yeah, they take off their helmets. And I think they'd just been shooting like the trash compactor scene or around about that sort of bit. And it's like, Mark Hamill's ruffling my hair and, they're signing my little blue autograph book. And of course, again, they're not names at that time. So you're just like, oh, yeah. Cool. Thanks,
Yeah.
But yeah,
Amazing.
so I went many times. That's the fortunate thing because of my father working on the films. Obviously, I've spent sort of 7 years, just getting on for 7 years in and around the making of those films. If you think from sort of 76 to 83. So, I wasn't in them all, obviously. I'm grateful for the 42 seconds I'm on camera in the first one. Not that I've counted. Not that it's like vitally important to know these things. But yeah, so I have that. But also there has, I went to Empire, the set of Empire many times. And then we went on location on Return of the Jedi. We went as a family and joined Dad out in Umar and Crescent City. So,
Wow. So going back to after you've done all the little bits on New Hope and seen all these things that you've got a clue what they are, I mean, it'll have been a good year and a half, 2 years before you actually got to see it on the big screen. And
sort of a bit earlier than that because we went to the cast and crew in London, and that was actually quite scary. Because it was when we came out from that screening, we were absolutely swamped with press and God knows what. Right. It was horrible. It was a really horrible experience. It was like, holy cow, what is this about? Because obviously it had already played in the States, hadn't it? I think there was a delay, wasn't there?
Yeah.
So of course news had travelled across the pond, and when it hit us, it was like, holy flipping heck! And I'm just a little kid there, and Warwick, who was in the scene with us, he's 4 years older than me, so he was 11 at the time, 10, 11. So I thought it was quite well. I certainly have memories of it being quite scary. Mind you, everything I ever tell you, Warwick will probably contradict because he was a different age to me, and so it's just we're coming at it from different ages on that timeline, So I see it through rose tinted glasses, and he'll probably see it through just normal shades or mirror shades or whatever. You know what I mean? It's always different between us. But that was my experience anyway. Yeah.
So, but in terms of like the actual film itself, was it completely different to what you had in your? I mean, I know this is impossible to remember, but in terms of the script,
I'm going to say something that's going to burst a lot of dreams here for people. I just kind of went, oh yeah, that was fun. Went home and started playing with my Matchbox cars.
Well, yeah.
And I remember my mum coming into the room, and Warwick and I were playing with our Matchbox cars. You know, the orange track you used to get as well.
Yeah.
The orange tracks. Yeah, and you'd end up inevitably kind of fighting and then whipping each other with the orange track every afternoon. But, my mum's out going, oh, "How was the film?" And you just went, "Yeah, right." It was kind of like, "Yeah, all right." So yeah, it was only when I went back to school and everyone went, "Oh my God, you're in that film," that you go, "Crikey, oh okay, hang on a second," and of course, there wasn't much merchandising around when the film first came out as well, so there wasn't much to really grab hold of to actually go, "Oh my God, this is a big deal over here." You heard about it in the press, but there wasn't anything else really grabbing me at the time. But of course, by the time Empire was shooting, Of course, I was
Yeah.
aware of it. I was older. I was a little bit more aware of the world at large, and I was super excited. It was absolutely thrilling to be in the mix of that. But yeah,
And do you
New
remember
Hope, funnily enough, was just okay.
it was just like whatever?
Yeah, crazy, isn't it? Crazy to think that, but that's what it was like,
Do you remember picking up a Kenner figure for the first time then and going, wow, that's me?
Yeah. And I think, have I told you my story? Okay,
Don't
this is
think
going to
so.
be okay. It's name dropping time. We were very lucky. Gary Kurtz used to have parties around his house for Christmas and things like that.
Yeah.
And we were invited round, and with a whole load of other kids, and I think people like Simon Henderson were there actually, who's won the other Jawas in the Cantina. So it's people like that. So it was, it was the crew and their kids, and some of them had been Jawas and whatever.
Yeah.
And we had a treasure hunt around the garden. And those were my very first Star Wars figures were scavenged in Gary Kurtz's back garden.
Oh, right.
Rambling estate.
Brilliant.
And I actually had a Jawa with a vinyl cape.
Oh man.
I know. But I played with it and lost the cape.
No.
You do when you're 7 years old.
You didn't. You weren't to know, man. Yeah.
Nobody was to know. They were played with, not kept in a bubble.
Yeah.
Exactly. I've still got them all. I bet they're they've all gone yellow and horrible. You know how they go, those figures after a while, if you don't look after them,
Yeah.
But yeah, I've still got them. And they're treasured things. But yeah, they were scavenged in the Matt garden. Yeah.
So going on to Empire then, you had a really cool, because there's that brilliant picture of you and Mark Hamill in his Luke Skywalker.
That was going to be my I was going to put this up as my avatar today, but this silly software thing that you use here won't let me change my avatar. I had it all lined up. I thought, oh, super! I could use the one of me with Mark Hamill. Yeah, that was on the Hoth set. That was taken, and it was the official stills photographer. I don't know who it was on that particular day, so it's an official shot, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
and that was just I'd been watching them film the Wampa scene with Luke hanging upside down in the cavern, and there were a few issues, and I was kind of perched there for the day on a big block of polystyrene, just watching them film.
Yeah,
and Dad's in there rocking Mark. I think Colin Skeeping was there as well, and they're kind of rocking Mark towards. There's a photo of them rocking him towards the camera and stuff. So they were doing all of that, and I just kind of watched. And of course, the crew are like, "Who's that spotty kids?" with the girly hair sitting on that polystyrene block. But that was me. I was there all day. And when we finished, Dad just said, "Oh, we need a photo. We need a photo." And he grabbed a gun. I grabbed Mark, and he grabbed a gun, and there we go. You've got me shooting that blaster, and it's a great. If you don't mind me saying, it's a great photo. I absolutely love it.
I don't think I've seen it.
It's a fantastic. I'll dig that up.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic photo. In fact, maybe we can tweet that out in the week.
Yeah. Well, I can pass it on afterwards, and
brilliant. So then, obviously, like you say, you know the characters by that point. You're on the set of Empire. Was it Mark Hamill that you were having a picture with, or was it Luke Skywalker by that point? Was your man?
Yeah. Well, it's been a Mark, really, because he knew me by then. So yeah, it was Mark.
Yeah.
It was very much Mark. He was great. He was just so good with any kids who happened to be on at the stage, at the sound stages and stuff. He was super. I particularly remember him from Return of the Jedi because he was so good around the swimming pool at the Stardust Motel over in Yuma. He was fantastic. Always had time for us all, even though it was like these annoying bratty kids running around. He just had a hugely hot and sweaty day running, filming in the desert there. But he was great. Always had time for us. He was lovely, really lovely. I mean, there was a rumor that he liked my name so much that he was going to name one of his kids after me, but God damn, he never did.
So, obviously you've mentioned Gary Kurtz, who, from what I've heard and the brief meeting that I had with him, seemed like a great guy. What have you got any memories of George Lucas? Did you get to speak to him much?
No,
not really.
I met him, but it was just hi.
Just a hi.
You know what I mean?
Very quick.
Just, hi. That was it. Yeah, no, I've got no real memory of him at all. Really don't.
What about Kirsch?
Kirsch I bumped into, but again, not. it's kind of like, because I've met my dad and hi, who's this? And you go hi, and that's it. It's just a brief thing, isn't it? Really, I wish I had stories for you. I really do, but
no, that's okay. I'm just going through the. So well, let's
going to go through every crew member and every cast member now. What about?
Well, all right.
Just make something up.
We'll finish with Harrison Ford, but I think you've given me your standout memory there. I've got to ask you about him.
Oh, you okay. This always comes across as name dropping, doesn't it? Okay, we were in San Rafael. We done all the shooting had taken place at Crescent City, and Dad had taken us away early because we were on a family holiday. So we drove down the Redwoods Coast Road from Crescent City down to San Rafael, and when we got there, Dad had a bit of shooting to do for all the green screen work with the biker scouts and things like that.
Yeah.
And in between all that shooting, we were all out shopping one day, and we were in a giant like Walmart type place. In fact, I think it was, if Walmart was around then, I don't know my American stores and their histories, but it was that sort of place. It was huge. Yeah. And we saw this big gaggle of screaming shoppers and staff and everyone going mental, and we were like, well, what's going on? And in the middle of the throng was Harrison Ford, and he saw us, and he saw Dad, and went right beeline, and he bundled over to us, and we kind of escorted him and shepherded him and protected him through the store out into the car park, down 5 flights and all of that, with all these people screaming and going mental around him.
Ford mania.
Yeah, basically, and it's pretty cool. I was 13, so it's like, yeah, that's cool.
So going back to Dad then, in terms of what he did stunt-wise, I mean, I know obviously on A New Hope, he's done the Tusken Raid a bit. He's the Wilhelm Scream Stormtrooper. Yeah,
twice, I think, because I think he gets one in Return of the Jedi where one the Weekay goes into the pit, and it might be him on the Weekay. Might be him.
Ah, okay.
There's all that talk, isn't it? Who played which Weekay, who was which Klaatu, who was which whatever.
Yeah. But so it could be him. It could be what's his name? Who's the guy I spoke to at Star Wars Fan Fun Day? I can't remember now. The other stuntman who did the one who broke his leg.
Oh, yeah.
I know. He broke his leg on the skiff, didn't he? Somebody
Paul
landed
Weston.
on him.
No, Paul
Weston. Yeah, Weston. Yeah, that's
Paul Weston.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to claim to be everything. You know how it works. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the stormtrooper that bumped his head. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was very instrumental in the lightsaber duels, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just before we jump onto that, just so everybody knows. At the last count, we know of 19 different roles he played across the original trilogy on camera.
Wow. Go on, whip through them then.
Oh, you're kidding me. Okay, he's on the blockade runner at the start of New Hope. He's the Tusken Raider who attacks Luke in the desert. He's Gareth Defoe in the cantina. There's even talk that you might be Walrus Man in there. There's even talk. Remember, nobody really knows for sure who played him. There's talk. I know he staged that bit of action, but I don't know if he played that character. He is TK421. Why aren't you at your post? He's Corporate Prescott in there. In fact, it's all stuntmen there who get blown up by our heroes. He is. He's in the docking bay at Mos Eisley. He's one of the stormtroopers who gets shot when the Millennium Falcon's leaving. And there's the
all right, yeah.
He's certainly one of the guys who gets shot in the other docking bay on the Death Star after Darth Vader's died. Sorry, Obi-Wan's died. Yeah, that would be a change of direction. He's also the first stormtrooper to get shot in the Death Star chasm and plunged down the chasm when they're making their swing across.
Oh yes,
that's the Wilhelm one of it.
Okay. Yes, that's the Wilhelm one. Yes, and then we can jump to Empire. He is the snowtrooper by the big gun in the Hoth ice hangar.
Yeah,
that gets blown up when the Millennium Falcon departs.
Yeah,
he is one of the stormtroopers in the gas chamber behind Chewie and Han Solo when they're getting frozen, and then he gets knocked off the setup there, off the rigging there. He plays one of the stormtroopers again, or in fact, in 2 scenes, he's the stormtroopers escorting Boba Fett to his Slave One.
Oh yeah,
and there's all the various shootouts and entanglements going on there. That he's on a call sheet to play one of the Ugnaughts, believe it or not.
Right.
Really?
Yeah, because the conveyor belt in which they find 3PO in his pieces rattling down to that little furnace at the end was quite dangerous. So there was talk about having him on his knees to play one of the Ugnaughts, but I don't think that actually came to fruition. I remember him talking about it, and I've got the call sheet with his name on it, playing Hog Person number 6, but I don't think it ever happened. And then you can jump on to Return the Jedi.
Money instead.
Yeah, sure. And then Return the Jedi, he's Sergeant Duelin, who gets chucked down the stairs in Jabba's palace when Chewbacca and Bouche arrive.
Yeah.
He is at the skiff battle. He is a Weke, we know for sure. He could have played Plot Snitkin or Snit Plotkin or Ploot Snotkin or whatever his name is. He's on a call sheet for that.
Yeah.
I have a continuity Polaroid snapshot I've seen in which he's identified as playing a Klaatu.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a recent discovery as well.
Was it?
So that's 3. We know for a fact that he was a biker scout.
Yes.
He gets thrown into a tree coming off one of the bikes, but he also gets spun by Harrison Ford. He takes a tumble. Harrison rolls him over his shoulder.
There's a brilliant picture of him rehearsing that, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. So there's definitely 2 biker scouts. He's there, and then he's also a rebel soldier inside the bunker as well. Attacking with Harrison Ford, so he swapped sides. Basically, he fought for both sides in the Civil War. And then he's kind of various stormtroopers in that battle. Whatever, wherever. That one you're never going to identify who did what there, but he's in that melee. So that's pretty good. That's not his record for a single film, though. If you go back to his Hammer days, I found out recently he made an Oliver Reed film, The Scarlet Blade. Lionel Jeffries and Oliver Reed for Hammer. 21 roles he had in there in one film. Yeah. It was shot for about 2p in Black Park, and they had like 5 extras, so they'd run them past the camera, and they literally would do the old thing, the old joke of changing uniforms and then running in from the left again. But I watched that the other day on Blu-ray, and it was 21 times I counted him playing again Cavaliers, Roundheads, dead people who were then alive again in the next scene, and that sort of stuff. But that's what he used to do, that sort of stuff. And then he did the fights. So there we go. Look, I've come full circle around to the lightsaber fights.
Well, I was going to say it's probably a good job he didn't drink. With
I know. Yeah, he was.
I got given so many roles in an Oliver Reed film. He's the only man standing.
Yeah.
There's a story again. That's another story I've read recently in which he was filming Treasure Island with Oliver Reed. In about 1990. That was the one directed by Fraser Heston, who was Charlton Heston's son. And there's a great book about the making of that and acting with Oliver Reed, in which they talk about Oliver Reed being so drunk on the clifftop scene they had to film that he got really wild and terrified of being so high, and he had a big fight with my father and the director up there, and they had to restrain him and eventually tie him down, stop him going mental and knocking people over the cliff. But in general, Dad was always very positive, by the way. I know we're kind of diversifying here, but Dad was always really positive about Oliver Reed, because he said that although he was a drunk, he would invariably turn up completely sober on day, on time, do his scenes, and was thoroughly professional throughout. But he was a hellraiser as soon as the camera was switched off.
Right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. What a legend.
Yeah.
So, and he did. Going back to you mentioned about the horror films, he did a lot of them as well, didn't he?
Yeah. 18 Hammer films, although it may be up to about 24. So I'm still working on some of the titles because we don't have contracts for everything he did. So I'm having to. I've reached a point now of having to actually pick up the Blu-rays, and freeze frame and step through to see if I can identify him on screen. Because at that time, most of his work, even though he was a stunt arranger, most of his work would involve also performing. So you get used to looking for his body shape, his bald head, the stupid sneer he used to have.
Yeah.
You know. So, you know, and the thing he used to be very proud of was his stair falls. He used to do great stair falls. So whenever a character gets chucked down the stairs, I'd step through it, and you'd look, and invariably you'll see the wig pop up at some point. You'd be like, "Oh, that's him."
And if it's behind the scenes, you'll see the tracksuit.
Yeah, basically, yeah. From about 1977 onwards, basically. If you're seeing a behind the scenes photo, he's in his blue Adidas tracksuit.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So was it? This will be me testing myself because I'm not sure. In terms of the lightsaber stuff, your dad was working without Bob Anderson on The New Hope, was he?
Yeah, first one. I checked out his contract just before we came online. He was stunt arranger and swordmaster was his official billing on his contract.
Okay,
brilliant.
So no Bob Anderson there at all.
No. So he choreographed The New Hope lightsaber duel then with the two actors.
Yeah. Basically, because they had no money and they couldn't even afford stunt doubles.
Yeah.
He basically, he had to train the old guy and the heavy-handed guy. You know, that was just the way it was. And you know, bear in mind, this was before Star Wars was Star Wars.
Yeah.
And so in those first days, they didn't even know how the lightsabers were going to be produced, how that effect was going to be done. So they had sticks.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, as I say to you, there was no budget. So it was just, you hold that one, you hold that one, let's see what we can do. It had to be shot and done and dusted, you know, in whatever, 48 hours, whatever, you know, just done.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think at the moment it's a bit disingenuous of people when they rehash that scene with fancy, flashy CGI effects, make a short film, and then say, "Oh, see, because the original's rubbish."
Yeah, I did see that.
It's kind of like saying, "I'm in the new Mercedes Sport, you know, Formula One car, and your Model T's crap."
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
I mean, it's not the best fight in the world. Plus, you know, let's be honest here as well. It worked for its time perfectly well.
It did.
I mean, there are millions and millions of people around the world who all cried out in horror, just like Mark Hamill when he died. I know I was kind of like, "Oh my God," when he went. So it worked. It did what it had to do, you know. And, you know, there was little things, you know, people forget that there was the insistence that they would always wield these things with two hands.
Two hands.
Yeah.
Because they're heavy, powerful broadsword type weapons.
Yeah.
You know, that's all out the window now, isn't it? It's all flash, bang, wallop, 12 speed.
Yeah.
You know?
He threw that out the window
like
by
drum
the
majorettes,
prequel skateboard and gymnastics.
Yeah.
You know, but it's, you know, that was then, this is now.
Well, that's it. Plus, judging it by its time, you know, I think as most people watching it, or particularly as a kid watching it, really, you were equally as enamored with the sound of it and the look of it than just the sword fight itself. So,
absolutely,
you know, it was the
the iconic
it was all,
laser sound. Yeah,
it was all that.
Yeah.
So, and your dad had worked with Bob Anderson previous, like they knew each other really well.
Dan and Bob were fighting friends. That's what Dad always used to call them. And Dad was friends with Bob Anderson from about 1954, 1955. They both worked on The Dark Avenger with Errol Flynn.
Okay,
and basically their relationship was the thing is stunt work back then. I don't know what the situation is now, but it was very fluid. So you had guys working together all the time. You'd have somebody employed on a film who might not be able to do every day. So he would drop out and somebody else would step into his shoes. So you had these working relationships where everybody knew how they worked and people would come and go from films and stand in if they had to. And so Dad and Bob had this relationship whereby they just kind of knew how to set up a sword fight, how to train the actors, and what to do to bring a sword fight to life on screen. And they kind of, one was, it's like one was the left hand, one was the right hand, basically.
Yeah.
So they work together. So there's this pigeonholing that seems to be going on again at the moment. When you go online, people say, oh, well, that's Bob Anderson in the suit on Empire. He was brilliant. And it's all Bob Anderson. It's brilliant. He was the Swordmaster. Well, yes. Okay. His billing was Swordmaster. But I can tell you, because I was there, that it was Bob and my father working together and coordinating this fight and conceiving of how it might all come together and how it might all fit together. And you had Colin Skeeping in the mix as well, doing his bits and bobs, and you know, it's not just one person. There's this very handy sort of way people look at it where they go, oh, well, that's one person, that's another one, and it's all compartmentalized. But it wasn't like that at all.
Yeah, of course.
It wasn't just John, it was Paul as well.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And did they both? Because obviously there's shots of Bob Anderson without the Darth Vader helmet on.
Yeah,
and you can see when you look closely in the shots now, he's wearing like a shorter cloak and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So do we know if your dad did anything in the suit as well, or did he not?
I don't think so. I'm not aware of Dad doing anything.
But he choreographed.
That's it.
No, yeah.
But yeah, I'm not.
But they choreographed it all together.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, but I'm not aware of Dad putting on the suit.
So he was effectively in the suit anyway, whether he was or not.
yeah.
Or both the suits, even.
Things like the fight in Return the Jedi. It was Dad's suggestion to cut the overhead platform in the Emperor's throne room, where the platform, the gantry drops.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he put that forward, and then they rearranged the set and rejigged it so it could be cut and dropped. It's stuff like that, you know. But people don't know that necessarily, you know. They just go, "Oh, it was all Bob. It was all Bob," you know. Right. And it's like that. Dad and Bob worked on so many features together. It's really. I mean, we haven't mentioned it yet, but Princess Bride, perfect example of how they worked in tandem together. Dad trained with Carrie Elwes throughout that production in order to get to the sword fight that was filmed at the very end of the production. Yeah. And Bob trained Mandy Patinkin throughout.
Brilliant.
And then they brought the two together at the end. You know, it was the same on Highlander as well. I think Dad was with Christopher Lambert most of the time, and Bob was with Clancy Brown, you know.
So your dad, there can only be one.
They did. Dad was going to do Zorro. We had Robert Rodriguez came round our house back in the very early days of the Mask of Zorro. Robert Rodriguez came round for tea at our house, and Dad was going to be the Swordmaster on it. And in the end, he just said, "Look, I'm getting on a bit. Mexico is hot and it's sweaty and it's dirty and it doesn't really suit my temperament, shall we say?" Because he got very ill in Tunisia, making Raiders of the Lost Ark and Star Wars. Yeah. And so he said, "Look, I'm going to pass," and he gave it to Bob.
Wow!
But because Dad had already sort of put stuff together, and then Bob knew what Dad wanted, and Dad knew what Bob wanted, Dad ended up training Anthony Hopkins. It's not credited for it, but he spent 4 or 5 weeks at Anthony Hopkins' house in London, and he trained him. And I've got this lovely photo thanking Dad for all of his work from Anthony Hopkins, you know. And they got on really well, by the way, because he's a big Tommy Cooper fan, and my dad loved Tommy Cooper. Every time he got a sequence right, he'd go just like that, just like that.
Brilliant! Absolutely love Mask of Zorro as well.
Yeah, it's a great film, isn't it? Great film. Sorry, this sounds like I'm sort of quietly deriding Bob. Bob was amazing.
No, not at all.
I mean, he was as grumpy as heck. He was a really grumpy old codger, but he was absolutely, from a technique point of view, he was fantastic. And in fact, I think the reason they got on so well, Bob and Dad, was because Bob did have that technique, but Dad was very much sort of steeped in the art of the performance.
Yeah.
Dad was all about the performance. When you see my father's fights, when he's done things separately, sword fights and things from the 50s and 60s particularly, you'll see that Dad loves to bring in props and stuff. So you'll have people, sneezing into snuff boxes and throwing chairs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
whereas Bob's very much about the blade, and it's all the 1-2 with the blade and the parries with the blade. And if you put those two together, you get the perfect sword fight.
Yeah. Well, I remember that the first time I became really aware of Bob Anderson was before before The Mask of Zorro. What was that film that Sean Connery did where he played King Arthur? First Night.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah.
And I remember there being like a behind the scenes thing on TV, and Bob Anderson was talking about how he thought that Richard Gere was one of the most gifted swords.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
People he'd seen since Errol Flynn. And when you look at the film, it was pretty damn good. Was your dad working on that as well?
No. Unfortunately not. No. Can't do everything.
No, of course not.
Sounds like he did almost do everything though.
Hey, you know what? Dad almost did Lord of the Rings. Did I ever tell you that?
Really?
No.
Yeah. He was going to do it, but then he went 3 years in New Zealand. Ooh, I don't think so, Bob.
So did he kind of like towards the end of his career? Did he move more to just doing the stuff behind the camera, or was he still doing bits and pieces on camera?
Yeah, he kind of had yearnings to be a director, and he did second unit and stuff. So I mean, there was a small film, Hear My Song, that was a Channel 4 film, I think, and a Miramax film. He had very few bits of stunt work in it, but he was a second unit director on there. But he directed 40. He did second unit 40 episodes of Highlander and Zorro. Again, that's the TV series. Yeah, they're often forgotten when people talk about Highlander. They kind of completely blank that out the series, and you go, "Hello, he was over in Paris and stuff shooting for all that time."
Yeah,
and then he did the New World Zorro series, and that had loads of guest stars and really big guest stars in it as well. That was the Duncan Regeer series.
I don't think I've ever seen that. I definitely remember Highlander, but I don't remember the Zorro series.
Yeah, the Adventures of Zorro. Yeah. It's a good series. It's loved now. It's actually quite watchable.
I'd like to watch that.
Dad did the sword fights, but he played Sir Edmund Kendall or something. He's the mentor of Zorro, which was quite nice.
Right.
Oh, right.
He was his English tutor.
So back to you. After Dad's done, he's done all these movies. Then you sort of got into the business yourself in a different way.
Yeah, nepotism to start with. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I storyboarded on Highlander in a
did you?
way. Yeah, I was what, 15, 16, and Dad gave me some storyboards to work on as a homework assignment. I came in from school, grumpy teenager, spotty teenager, hate the world, hate everyone, hate my parents. And he said, "Yeah, draw, because he knew I liked my drawing and my artwork and stuff." He said, "Draw some storyboards for me." So I had to sketch out about 400 storyboards overnight, which he then took to Glencoe and used as a basis for the big Glencoe battle. I've still got them. It's funny. At the time, I was like, "Oh, bloody Dad, I bloody hate you, bloody grump." Of course, now I go, "Wow, I've got all these pages of storyboards from Highlander with my dad's annotations on there and everything." So it's lovely to have. Really grateful for it now. But at the time, I hated it. But, yeah, I did that on a few things for him. There are a few bits and bobs. There's a couple of like Catherine Cookson TV adaptations as well. I did, and my draftsmanship is awful. I mean, 15 years old, for God's sake, it was bad. But yeah, so I left school, and Dad, I have to say, Dad pulled some strings, and he got me on Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I was
nice.
I was puppeteer for a couple of weeks underneath the Ink and Paint Club, running around with a tray in my hand, pretending to be a penguin waiter.
Oh yeah. I know the scene you're on about.
Yeah, and you're next to these amazing puppeteers and these amazing technicians, and Robert Zemeckis is upstairs, and and Frank Marshall, and you're like, holy cow, this is wow. Again, I was like, what was I, 18, 17, 18, maybe?
Yeah,
18.
yeah.
So that was my first job. And then, but so yes, absolutely, Dad got me that job. But after that, I applied for Walt Disney Animation separately. And I got a job as the sort of production dog's body gopher runner idiot general sort of T-boy for Walt Disney Animation on the animation for Roger Rabbit. So I was there for about 18 months in Camden Town, running around Richard Williams' production offices with all those amazing people there. You know, and you're talking about the top brass from ILM. You're talking about Spielberg. I got pizzas for Spielberg. You know, that sort of studio. You know what I mean? Spielberg's coming this afternoon. Get loads of pizzas in. You know, and of course they never ate them, but you can go, wow, I got this. You know, or you go around to Bob Hoskins' house to drop off a script or something for him. You know, so there's lots of lovely things there. But yeah, I was there for 18 months, and I think my claim to fame there is that I'm the only person to have puppeteered on the film and then gone on to actually paint the characters themselves that I puppeteered. So, because I painted the penguin waiters, I had a couple. So basically, they were so pushed with the schedule that it was all hands to tiller to get the film made. So I ended up painting the penguins one Saturday, and I realised, well, hang on, that's my tray. From there, I wrote a script that was crap. That would have cost about 600 million to get made, but I'd sent it to the Monty Python team, and they said, "You're right, your script's crap, but why don't you have a job?" So I went and worked for Monty Python for a couple of years.
As you do.
Jim Henson. I then moved on to Jim Henson. They were moving offices from Hampstead Heath up to Elstree Studios at the time, and I ended up working on the Storyteller Greek Myth. So I was in the production offices there, and I ended up sort of on camera a few times there.
Wow.
Hang on. Rewind a minute.
Yeah.
Stop the press.
Yeah, hold it there. What were the Pythons working on at the time?
Fish Called Wanda and The Adventures of Baron Munchausen were the two key ones at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Graham Chapman had just passed away, unfortunately.
Yeah.
He was very ill when I joined. And basically, we were kind of... well, you know the story. You see, you're fishing, aren't you? You're fishing towards the story. So I'll tell you.
A little bit, literally.
I'm in the offices, and it's late on a Friday night, and John Cleese and the gang are in there pacing up and down, getting very stressed because they've spent a fortune trying to work out what the advertising campaign for the film's going to be, and nobody can make a decision, and everything's getting rejected, and they've got no money left at all. And I'm seeing them walking around with this photo in their hand, and I went, "Hang on, give me the photo." So rather precociously, I took the photo from them. I said, "Hang on, look, the film's about a gun and a heist and diamonds." So I drew a little logo with the diamond and the gun and the fish, and I put it all together and said, there's your poster. And I did it on a Post-it note. And John Cleese took it into the meeting, and next thing I know, my posters are all over London, and it was my design.
Wow.
I got this big thank you card from him saying, "Oh, thank you so much for your contribution," you know. So lovely, you know, no money, but yeah, lovely, absolutely.
Oh, they give you a thank you at least.
Yeah,
they give you
thank you, which is the main thing. Yeah,
just to have that, you know, in your history, you know, it's just amazing.
Well, yeah, it's a nice little thing, isn't it? It's a nice thing to have. Yeah, really good. And I know I bought the Blu-ray the other day, and I'm on the reverse sleeve. It's great from Anchor Bay put it out. Anchor, whatever. Arrow, sorry,
Anchor Bay.
Put it out, and it's
Oh right. Oh, I might forget that.
Yeah.
I think I've probably bought it on every blooming platform that it's ever been on.
But it's not. Yeah, we used to have the flattened dogs, the dogs that get killed, the Yorkie dogs that get killed.
Yeah.
We used to keep the props in the office, so we had one of the half flattened dogs sitting in there. But yeah, I did loads of daft things through that sort of period from about the age of 18 to 25. I was very lucky. I did all sorts of rubbish. So I went down to Cannes a couple of times, ended up working for the British Pavilion down there, Majestic Films with their distribution. I was sort of just basically shepherding people around their various sales offices and stuff. I ended up cartooning for Moving Pictures International down there for a couple of weeks, you know, so my cartoons are in their daily trade magazines and stuff, lampooning a festival. I worked for, and I went into the offices of Troma Inc., Lloyd Kaufman, with his mad films.
Oh yeah.
Do you know Troma? Toxic Avenger, Surf Nazis Must Die, Rabid Grannies. Yeah, classics. Well, it's where what's his face, James Gunn came from, of course, was Troma.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I went into. I told everyone before I left the UK and went down there. I said, I'm going to get a job, just with someone down there. So I walked into the Carlton Hotel, went to their suite, and went, "Hello, I'm Frazer. Can I have a job?" And Lloyd went, "Yeah, all right." I ended up being their UK rep for a year and a half, selling all their films around the UK.
Right.
You know, I put on a Troba tour of film titles that went up and down the UK, playing at the BFI and stuff. It's great fun.
Those were
and
the
we had
days.
A big party. We had a big party in at the Barbican, and it was free booze all night. It's quite a legendary party that was, and we had some chopper chicks on all dressed up as zombies and stuff. And I was dressed up as a mutant squirrel, and I had to rampage up and down Dean Street and stuff. Yeah, it was all good fun.
Well, coming back to your art, just to finish off, you've got back on the horse recently, haven't you? So
yeah, I have. Yeah, I hit 50, and you go,
didn't.
Yeah, and you go, shit. There's not much time left to get things going. And I used to be very active, writing scripts, drawing, cartooning, and everything. And then real life gets in the way, and you've got a mortgage to pay, and you end up doing odd jobs that become full-time jobs that just become things that drag you down.
Yeah.
And it was my wife, really, who kind of saw that I just kind of abandoned everything. And she said, you know, she gave me a huge kick up the arse about 4 or 5 months ago and said, you've got to sort yourself out, go out and do your stuff again. Because there was a period I could go, you know me, I can talk all night. You know me, Paddy. You know what I'm like.
I do. We have done. We have talked on that.
Back in the 90s, I had a production company with a partner who was based in the advertising industry, who unfortunately passed away. But we were getting together a piratical TV series, 13 half hours, with Patrick Bergen starring, a pirate adventure serial in the style of the old ITC adventure serials, with my dad directing, me writing them. I wrote all 13 half-hour series. We got 2/3 of the money together. We sent the script off to Disney, and it disappeared into a black hole for about 2 years. In the meantime, my partner dies. The project dies with it. Dad kind of drifts away. Then he gets ill, and then Dad passes on and all that. And lo and behold, Pirates of the Caribbean comes out. And this is after Disney has told me that pirates don't sell and nobody wants pirates. And in fact, a lot of the characters are very similar to the characters that we had, but that's not taking anything away from Pirates of the Caribbean, because those guys, Ted Elliott and Ted Rosario, are they are fantastic authors. I mean, they did Mask of Zorro as well. And Aladdin. They're the best in the business. So it's coincidence. I'm not going to suggest that anybody's stolen it, but that notion of, we were just there. We were within a whisker. We got to sniff of it. We were almost there. So I'm certainly not saying that anybody stole anything or anything like that, but it was quite funny.
I'm going to say it.
But yeah, so kind of like all of that drifted, and I never did it. So now I've kind of woken up, and I'm doing my artwork again. I've always done these stupid monsters and doodles and things. I've always done them all my life. So I've got 40 years worth of silly doodles and creatures and things. And I thought, no, I'm going to expand on that. So I've just got some of my artwork into a local gallery here, talking to people in Aberdeen and Glasgow. And I'm trying to get my prints together and get my prints out there. But I'm also back writing. I'm doing short horror stories and things. And I'm trying to do a couple of those maybe as performance pieces as well.
Okay.
Getting an actor in to do little some sort of theatrical thing. I haven't really got my head around quite what it's going to be yet. But maybe putting on a performance somewhere.
So in terms of your artworks, where can people buy those?
Well, at the moment, through me, because I'm an impatient son of a bitch, and everybody moves at this sluggish pace, especially up here in Elgin, and it's kind of like, I want to get going. So I kind of jumped the gun, and a couple of weeks ago, I just said on my Facebook feed, look, I'm doing these. Does anybody want to buy them? And lo and behold, people have. It's been lovely. It's been wonderful.
Brilliant.
It's just really, it's a great feeling to think that my art's hanging up in somebody's house now, It's just, it's cool. It's really cool. I want more. Yeah, it's great.
They are really cool. So the best places for people to contact you through Facebook or through your website?
Yeah, at the moment through Facebook, but obviously as and when these galleries are finally tied, I mean, they're framing them as we speak, you know what I mean? But and then you call them up and you go, okay, is it done yet? And they go, no, we've got this going on and that going on. And you're like, oh, come on, So it could still be a few weeks yet, but the best thing to do is through me at the moment,
Cool. And there's also, was it FrazerDiamond.co.uk?
FrazerDiamond.co.uk, yeah, and that's got links to my Twitter and Instagram, and I'm a bit rubbish at Twitter, by the way. Really, I still don't get Twitter. I don't understand what that's about at all.
It's a black hole. You don't really want to Go there.
that's
Yeah,
that's Matt's,
Instagram.
that's Matt's department. He's fallen down that hole.
Yeah, it is a rabbit hole.
But also,
definitely
I
link
do
your,
conventions as well. Don't forget, I do conventions. So there's that as
Yeah.
well.
Yes.
You know, and if you see me at a convention, invariably I'll have my little sketch cards, my little Jawa sketch cards with me that I give away, which has been quite fun because I love it when people get them and then they post them up on Facebook and go, look, you gave me this, and then you go, oh blimey, they're in Germany. Oh my goodness, they're in New Zealand. Oh my God, that's Mexico. You know.
Yeah.
So that's
lovely.
fun. It's nice to see my little Jawa sketch cards traveling around the world. And I do my talks now because I've always felt a bit guilty about the Star Wars thing to a degree. Because I used to look at the fact that I was only in that little scene and I thought, oh, this is a bit funny. Getting invited to places that made me feel a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I kind of thought I need to grow. I need to do something back. So what I do now is I do talks. I mean, you've heard me rabbiting on tonight, but basically you switch me on. I go mental in front of a screen for about an hour and I spin through about 200 behind the scenes photographs and things of my dad's career and show items of his scripts and his production notes. I mean, I've got all of his sketches from Return the Jedi to outline and plan the final confrontation in the throw room.
Brilliant.
You know, I've got his contracts here.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
So it's that sort of stuff. I put them up on the screen and go, and we've unearthed some footage. Ooh, we've unearthed some footage taken in Tunisia on cine camera.
Really?
Just a few seconds. Nothing really amazing, but kind of amazing when you're scrabbling around looking for something that could be amazing. It's amazing.
If it's Star Wars history, it'll be amazing, you know.
Yeah.
It's about 30 seconds of footage in Tunisia, and that's all I'm going to say.
Oh, wow. Great.
Never seen before.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely hoping that there's going to be an excuse for you to do it up here again. Because usually we find an excuse. Usually the excuse that I get to see Frazer is him attending DrakeCon. So
yeah, unfortunately, yes. My other thing is Potter, isn't it? I like my Potter stuff. Yes, I know. Sorry.
Yeah. That's okay. I like it too. But yeah, then I want to see the talk live for sure.
It's getting better.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Think Magnus Pike if you're old enough. I get hot-headed and manic, but it's good. It's good fun.
Anyway, so we allotted ourselves an hour and we have gone over a little bit now. So
I do apologise. Sorry.
Don't ever apologise for that. I just like to set you going and watch you go.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been brilliant. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. It's been
Anytime, yeah.
Let's do it again soon.
Okay, next week it is.
And we'll definitely link your website address and stuff in there.
Thank you very much. Yeah. You're too kind.
Yes, we shall do that. And I'll speak to you very soon.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Frazer Diamond.
Frazer.
Yay.
And that's good night from all of us, ladies and gentlemen, on Club Star Wars. We'll see you next week. Until then, may the force be with you.
See you soon.
Tidy bye.